So I just got through recording a podcast about protesters in Portland, Oregon. They were on a kick where they don't want to see Nike sell shoes made of kangaroo leather. And the whole protest, and this happened across a number of major cities, including like Adelaide and Melbourne and Sydney in Australia. Kangaroos are not shoes. That is literally the protest. Today's topic, even though kangaroos are not endangered, nor are they going to be endangered anytime soon, you'll find them dead on the roadside throughout the outback of Australia all day long. True story. All right, so another ridiculous topic coming out of Portland, and I promised I wouldn't cover much in the way of real estate, but this is one of those topics where I sit and just really scratch my head that this is a law that is out there. This was put into law. Love letters, real estate love letters. That's what we're talking about today. And you might say, what the F is that? And I would too. It is if you have a client, if you're a real estate broker, real estate agent, and you have an offer that isn't as strong as the other 18 that are in line of you to be presented to the seller. You're right. You got to do something. You got to come up with something. So sometimes if your buyers feel so, motivated, they write a dear seller, here's why you should sell me your home. Please fall in love with my family. My husband is a doctor and he works with children who are economically not able to cover their health coverage and, works with underprivileged children. I'm the wife and I am a dentist and I help underprivileged people during my time off, whatever. We have 3 beautiful children. Here they all are. We want to make this our family home, something along the lines of that. And those letters can really pull at people's heartstrings, especially the wife of the seller, because the wife is like, oh, let's just sell it to this. And I've literally had that happen. I've had a deal where we sat down at the conference table, had I think 12 offers all laid out. And the wife, it's a stressful time because you're going to have to accept an offer. And hopefully, this is the cash coming out of the sale of your home. You're making some good money, but you want to make the right decision. And I'm there as the managing broker to kind of help out when things get a little tricky. And so you got to make a choice in which one you're going to take. And I've literally watched the wife, the mother figure within a family on the seller side, look at a love letter and go, I want to sell to them. I want to sell to them because they do fall in love with them. And it does happen. Real estate is highly emotional. And that's why people want to say that, you can quantify all these things in real estate. If a wife falls in love with a kitchen in a home, you're hosed. You're buying that house for your wife. You're hosed. It's toast. It's game over. I mean, you might get something in the garage that you like, but kiss it goodbye. Yeah. And if you don't get that, yeah, sucks to be you. And we're talking literally first world problems because it's a matter of, did you get that house or not get that house? Well, Oregon came up with this law that bans love letters. The letters written to appeal to sellers to accept a potentially less competitive offer were outlawed as of January 1st in an effort to limit housing discrimination. Okay, so this is kind of going back to defund the police. Now, when you defund the police, you got less police in a community. Where is a lot of the crime happening already? Where does that already exist? In the BIPOC community. So you take police out of that equation, you got fewer police. Who does it impact the most? So let's extrapolate that to the real estate market. All right. So who has potentially less competitive offers in real estate? The people with all the money, the white privileged people. Are they the ones that need to do the dear seller letter? No, they're not, because they don't need to. They can just write a massive check over and above and escalate the sales price up to God knows what. And that's literally what's happening in our market. So the very people that dear sellers, please sell me your home are designed to help out are the communities that need them. Now, you might say, especially in Oregon. I mean, are you kidding me? Okay, Eastern Oregon, are you going to have some discrimination there? Yeah, maybe, but discrimination is everywhere, right? I mean, to some degrees, somehow we discriminate against whatever. And I'm not saying it's rampant. I'm not saying it's out there all the time, but in a state like Oregon, I mean, in Portland, the Dear Seller love letters, those are going to help the people that need it the most. Those who have weaker offers, maybe an FHA, right? FHA transaction. It's, insured by the government, Federal Housing Administration. You don't have enough money. That's what you do. You come in with the low down payment and all right, yeah, you can get a loan. And people with cash, they don't need to write Dear Seller love letters. They are in this market because there's like 10, cash offers sometimes on these transactions. But this is literally what's going on in Oregon. So they were outlawed as of January 1, and then a judge just overturned them. That's what we're going to talk about right now. Before we jump on in, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies here in Seattle, Washington, and I read news for reasonable people. You're reasonable? I think I'm kind of reasonable. Let's do this. All right. So this is a follow-up. I did the Dear Sellers. I had one of my brokers call me and say, hey, my friend in Oregon said that they're outlawing this. And I was like, what? There's no way. Outlawing what? And so I started doing some research and I ended up doing a podcast on this. Literally, Oregon banning love letters. It's like, all right, I see where the position they're coming from. But clearly they didn't talk to anybody who actually works with people who could be considered underprivileged in the real estate market, because they would realize that their angle is a little bit off, in my opinion. As a real estate broker, I think it's off. Because, like I said, the people who could be writing the Dear Seller letters, they typically aren't, because they got a pocket full of cash. And the people that need that extra edge, those that we know statistically have had a tough time with home ownership in the United States, members of our BIPOC community, those are the ones that need to be able to write these bad boys. And so they're going to be able to continue in Oregon. A federal judge last week issued a preliminary injunction blocking Oregon's ban on so-called real estate love letters, personal notes from prospective home buyers to home sellers. Now, where this breaks down is if somebody who is racist sees a Dear Seller letter and they go with the, one race over another. Okay. But that's going to happen. You will have that happen over people's names. Let's be honest. Let's just be brutally honest. Okay. All right. The spelling on that person's name. Can't pronounce it. No. Some people are going to react like that. They're going to say, no, I'm not selling to them. Is that right? Absolutely not. And that should not be happening. But, your sellers are going to see that contract because they got to sign the thing. They got to review it. They review it with their broker. Maybe they get an attorney to review it if they're really, real estate anal. It's the best word I can come up with. Sorry. In his court order issued last Friday, U.S. District Judge Marco A. Hernández said the law violates the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. 1A. By restricting free speech too broadly, the OregonLive reported. I was kind of thinking this would happen because it's just so crazy. The conservative Pacific Legal Foundation filed the lawsuit in U.S. District Court on behalf of the Bend-based Total Real Estate Group against Oregon Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum and Real Estate Commissioner Steve Strode, alleging that forbidding the letters violated First Amendment rights. Okay, so we have a ban. We no longer have a ban. Freedom of speech. The letters, often written to appeal to a seller to accept a potentially less competitive offer, were outlawed as of January 1st by lawmakers, seeking to ensure that sellers couldn't make decisions based on race, national origin, marital or family status, sex, sexual orientation, or other protected classes. All right, let's take a look at that. Let's just take a peek, see, okay? Race. All right, so you can't really discriminate in real estate contract on race unless you correlate the name, right? Or unless you see them come through your home. A lot of people have, all kinds of security cameras and security stuff in their homes. So you're going to see people coming through, but you don't know who the offers are from, right? And you might have 100 people go through your home, touching all your stuff, and, weird stuff goes on. It just does. Prescription medication gets taken. Yeah, that's always fun. What happened? Okay, I'll try and figure out what to do here. Based on race, national origin. Okay, so maybe you correlate the name. Again, maybe you see them go through your home. You identify who they are. Marital or family status. That is, oftentimes it is right on the real estate contract. State of Washington, you've got a drop-down box that you indicate, married or single as individuals, because it's how you hold title. So you've got that right on the contract. Okay, I don't want any single people. I am not selling to any single people. It said no seller, because the bottom line is oftentimes sellers, if the wife hasn't fallen in love due to one of these love letters, then you know what wins? The most money and the best terms. So if you got something really close dollar-wise and somebody else doesn't have a financing contingency, meaning the odds of that person's offer are just a scooch higher to go through, meaning close, than the other offer, they're going to go with that one. It's money driven, right? It's money driven. All right. So we've got marital or family status. I mean, you kind of know those. Sex. All right. I'm not selling to any women. All right. Men. No, not selling to any men. Okay. So yeah, you can't discriminate on this. You can't discriminate on these things. But what the point I'm trying to make is that, that doesn't really happen anyway. I haven't seen any cases of it, and I've been doing this a long time. Sexual orientation. Okay. That is legit. Okay. I have seen that happen. You got the same same sex first names, and you're like, oh, what's going on here? Sellers will have that. They will have that reluctance. Okay. That's out there. And I'm, just being brutally honest here. That does happen. Okay. But the dear sex letter, not the dear sex, the dear seller letter, to me, if you've got, say you got a gay couple in Portland, that to me would be a plus on a dear seller, please sell me your home letter. I mean, that would be a plus. I don't think it's going to be a way to discriminate. I don't see that happening, especially in the cities where this is being considered, which is, we don't want any discrimination. Okay, yeah, but then the flip side is you are not enabling people who probably should, would potentially benefit from these letters to get in there and go. So you got sexual orientation or other protected classes. All right. Okay. Yeah, you shouldn't discriminate. You shouldn't discriminate. And for me, from that standpoint, it's never been about discrimination. It's been about, all right, my fiduciary responsibility as representing a seller, as a real estate broker, is to get them the highest and best offer that I feel is going to close. Because that's the end result here. We're not trying to make people happy. We've got a fiduciary responsibility. Okay. So, there you go. All right. So you've got a dear seller letter here there, and it's pretty good, but it's really low. Is that going to do anything? Really low to the other offers. Is that going to do anything? Probably not. But if it's a super tight race, it might give you just that little edge you need. And it isn't the people with all the money in the world that need that little edge. So that's where this one, to me, it kind of like, all right, well, whatever. You kind of get to that point where you're like, all right, that's ridiculous, but not a lot I can do there. So I'm podcasting on it. The judge's injunction was a major victory for free speech and economic opportunity, said Daniel Ortner, an attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation, which says it defends Americans from government overreach and abuse. It feels like that's what's happening to me. You've got a case of government overreach. When you are outlying dear seller letters, that is, those are politicians and those are folks in the legal world that haven't represented a lot of underprivileged folks on the buy side. They just haven't, because if they did, they'd have a little different angle on this. Guaranteed. The ruling preserves the opportunity of home buyers to speak freely to sellers and make the case why their purchase offer should win out, Ortner said in a statement. Okay, I agree. I am not a huge fan of dear seller letters. I think your offer should stand on its own. That's just me. Other people are like, oh no, you got the perfect family. You need to write that dear seller letter. And my thought is always, okay, you're a buyer and you've got that perfect family, and the seller is, comparing dear seller letters. I think people root for the underdog. I really do. I really do. And it's not the family that just looks all damn perfect, because you're like, oh, those people are perfect. They don't need any more help. I'm going to go with these guys over here. Their letters, their offer's pretty close. Plus, who doesn't root for the underdog if you're getting the same amount of money? You know what I mean? Because cash talks, BS walks, right? I mean, that's kind of business 101. So the Oregon Real Estate Agency on its website said it will not enforce the law unless a further court order allows it to go into effect. Rosenblum's office didn't immediately respond to an email seeking comment. Democratic Governor Kate Brown signed the bill prohibiting the letters last year after it unanimously passed the House of Representatives and passed the state Senate on a mostly party line vote. It's believed to be the first such law in the country. Shocking, right? No, it's Oregon. Oregon's always got this crazy stuff going on. And literally, I think if you sat down with these folks who drafted up this law and kind of explained to them how this is somewhat backwards, and it's literally had the unintended consequence of probably damaging those who need extra help the most, kind of like people in the BIPOC communities when we defunded the police and there's now fewer police. And how's that going, by the way? How's that going? What did President Biden say? I didn't memorize his last State of the Union address, but I think he said, we're not defunding the police. We're funding the police. Fund the police. He came right out and said that. Wild, change of tune from the summer of 2020 when all the defund the police was going on and a couple $1 billion worth of damage from the peaceful protesters throughout the United States happened. And the left kind of said, oh, yeah. They said nothing. They just let it happen. So now we've come back full circle and, we got to fund the police. That one didn't work out. The dear seller love letters. This thing's going to, I don't think other places are going to probably try and push this through, because clearly it's ill-conceived, number one, and, it's illegal. Number two is what we're saying, right? It's against laws. It's believed to be the first such law in the country. Yeah, not shocking. Oregon. The National Association of Realtors has said that the letters raise fair housing concerns because they often contain personal information and could reveal a potential buyer's race, religion, or familial status. Okay, but that argument can be flipped. That can be a positive in many cases, in my opinion. Because people, I think, want that underdog. I mean, they do. Or if they got to make a decision and they're like, all right, if everything's the same and this family gives me this story and just, it seems like that matches up. Because people write dear seller letters that aren't accurate either. One of the things in real estate is location, location, location. Another one is timing, 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 which kind of trumps location, 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 depending when you get in and out of the real estate market. But another one that is wildly accurate is buyers are liars. They are. And in real estate, that is wildly true. Hey, we're going to make an offer today. It's going to be 5% over list. It's going to be an incredible offer. And then you never hear from them. Yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to take care of that. We're going to, we got this going. And you never hear back from them. They move on to something else. And it's not necessarily that they're liars, but that does happen too. It's just that circumstances and transactions They happen out awfully fast, and sometimes buyers have good intentions of following through on one thing, and that doesn't necessarily happen because they've got two other shiny new objects out there, which are homes to look at that just came on the market yesterday, and they're better than the one they've got the offer on. And so, stuff happens. So I don't really blame that. So the information that could be used knowingly or through unconscious bias as an unlawful basis for a seller's decision to accept or reject an offer, according to a post on the association's website. And again, I'm not a huge advocate of Dear Seller letters. I think the offer should stand on its own. And that's ultimately, if you can make a strong offer with just what you got, don't go in with a bunch of other crap that you don't need as far as contingencies and stuff, but enough to cover the buyer, whatever their comfort level is. And unfortunately, in our market and continuing here in the spring of 2022, the market is still wildly on fire. And some markets have slowed down a little bit. And we've seen a little bit of pullback, but you've still got people selling homes within days and multiple offers. Maybe not as many as we had before with the whole interest rate. And then you got the Ukraine deal going on. I mean, there's a lot for people to be freaked out about. And, if their employment isn't totally 100% solid, or if they're moving around, say they were working at the 300 building of Amazon, and then now they're going to go back and work at home again, and maybe they'll be coming back to, they don't really know where they're going to be. And that's because Seattle has some outrageous crime going on right now that is being addressed by our new mayor and the DEA and United States attorney. I mean, we've got stuff going on. In about 2 hours and 15 minutes from right now, I'm going to be live streaming over in Seattle. I'm going to talk about the Blade in Seattle. That is probably the most dangerous one block section of all of Seattle. And it always has been, going back to the early 1900s. And it's just that block where people sell stuff. And recently it's become that block because that block was closed down because we've got Operation New Day going on, which is they're cracking down on crime here in Seattle because they need to, because it was out of control. And Amazon basically said this building at 300 Pine Street has had so much crime go outside of it that, those 1,800 employees, they're going to need to work somewhere else or continue working at home or, something along those lines. So you've got people that have situations, and I'm throwing that out there as a situation. Okay, where are you working this week? Not sure. How much crime is there on 3rd and Pine? Oh, a lot. Okay, probably working from home. That's literally what's going on. Is the McDonald's open? Nope. Okay, crime's still happening. So I'm going to go over and podcast on that and kind of do a walkthrough and run through. So I hope you'll check that out too. But this deal with the Dear Sellers letter, the lawsuit said lawmakers provided no proof that such discrimination was taking place and that state and federal laws already prohibit housing discrimination. That's a big deal. Now, you're not supposed to, in all of your advertising, there's all kinds of stuff that you can't say, familial unit, and it gets really particular. And you'll find that out if you input a listing into the MLS. They've got words that they tag that that you wouldn't even think of as being discriminatory. But, if you really took a hard look at it, you could conceive how that was going on. And with these Dear Seller letters, I could conceive of how discrimination is taking place. But in my years of experience, I haven't seen that be a thing. And I've got brokers that are, not old white privileged dudes like me. They represent people in communities that, haven't been able to buy as much real estate as some other communities have. And so, I work people through those issues as well. Hey, we're getting blitzed on all of our offers. What do we do? Well, maybe you need to go to a market where you're a little bit more competitive. Let's look at this market instead. And oftentimes those are very difficult conversations, but it doesn't happen because of discrimination taking place. It happens because we've got a real estate market on fire. And unfortunately, money talks, right? And the other walks. And so that's just kind of where we sit. And people want to say, well, what about affordable housing? Well, we don't have any. So you got to figure that out. That's kind of literally where we sit. And I know it sucks. And I'd like to have different answers. but that is the reality that folks kind of need to deal with. And we're all in this position where we want everything to work around us. But with things like economics, like housing economics, it's like, okay, that market just rolls and it just keeps doing its thing. You want to try and change it? Yeah, you tweak that market a little bit, it's not going to be good. Kind of like tweaking public safety by defunding the police. How did that work out? Not good, right? Yeah. Hernández said Oregon's goal was laudable, given its long and abhorrent history of racial discrimination in property ownership and housing that for decades explicitly blocked people of color from owning property. Okay. That has been a case. That has been a thing. I mean, there are deeds in real estate still that indicate discrimination. I mean, they do. We have those. But here the thing is, in 2022, we are talking about dear seller letters, and I don't see the correlation there. I, in fact, see an opposite correlation, and that would be that, if somebody has the opportunity to put a dear seller letter in there and they get the property, I'm all for that. Discrimination of any kind shouldn't be happening. And in real estate, it often typically goes to the highest bidder. It's money. It's facts don't care about your feelings, that kind of thing. So that's how I see this issue going down. So I think the courts actually got this one right, meaning that this limits free speech. Hey, you got to be able to say what you want to say. Okay. But then we don't want discrimination to happen. Yes. Agreed. Do we have any cases of that actually happening? I've done research. I haven't seen any. I haven't experienced any. I haven't heard any from the other 26,000 real estate brokers in the state of Washington, Western Washington, in the Northwest Multiple Listings. I haven't heard of that. You'd think there'd be articles about that, if that was the case, but I kind of strongly believe. All right. And I've asked other brokers of mine who represent communities that are not, all old white privileged dudes. Hey, what's going on? Do you ever see this happening? And the answer is no, not really. Don't see discrimination like that. It's like, okay. All right. So I'm just kind of reporting back what I hear as well. All right. That's it for me on this one. So the love letters, let the love letters rip. You can still write them. Okay. Thanks again for being here. Thanks again for supporting Seattle Real Estate Podcast. God, I said that again. News for reasonable people. Freudian slip. Okay. Thanks again. We'll catch up soon. Bye for now.